All right, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving deep into cell signaling.
Oh, it's a complex world in there.
It really is, and specifically the KMP pathway,
Right.
which impacts so many things in our bodies, like your heartbeat, even your memory.
Absolutely. It's a cascade of molecular events that are fundamental to how our cells function, really.
Yeah, and you sent over a bunch of material on GPCRs, or protein-coupled receptors,
Yeah.
and their connection to KMP.
Right.
So for our listeners who, might need a refresher, can you set the stage for us? What are these GPCRs and how do they kickstart this whole process?
Think of GPCRs as like sensory antenna for the cell.
Okay.
They're on the cell membrane constantly scanning for specific molecules,
Right.
which are called ligands.
Okay.
And when the right ligand comes along and binds to its matching GPCR, it's like flipping a switch.
Okay.
The GPCR changes shape, and that sets off a chain reaction inside the cell.
So it's all about this specific binding event.
Yeah.
Kind of like a lock and key, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And this binding triggers the activation of a protein inside the cell called a G protein.
Okay.
And G proteins are like molecular couriers.
Okay.
They relay the signal from that activated GPCR to other parts of the cell.
Got it. So we've got the ligand binding to the GPCR, which activates the G protein.
Right.
Now, where does CAMP come into the picture?
So CAMP is the next crucial player. It
Okay.
stands for cyclic AMP, and it's what's called a second messenger,
Okay.
meaning it amplifies and transmits that signal from the G protein
Okay.
to other molecules inside the cell.
Got it. So it's like a relay race.
Yeah.
With the G protein passing the baton to CAMP.
Yeah, you can think of it that way.
But where does CAMP actually come from?
It's produced by an enzyme called adenylyl cyclase.
Okay.
And here's the key. Adenylyl cyclase is activated by certain G proteins.
Uh-huh. So that's how they're linked.
Right.
The G protein activated by the GPCR tells adenyl cyclase to start making CAMP.
Yeah.
And then CAMP goes on to do what exactly?
Well, KMP doesn't just float around aimlessly.
Right.
Its main target is another key enzyme called protein kinase A, or PKA.
Okay.
And PKA is like a molecular switch.
Okay.
It turns various cellular processes on or off.
Hold on, I'm sensing a pattern here. We've gone from GPCR to G protein to adenyl cyclase to CAMP and now to PKA.
Exactly.
It's like a domino effect, with each molecule activating the next in line.
That's a great way to visualize it. It's a cascade of events, with each step amplifying and refining that signal.
So how does PKA actually exert its control? What's the mechanism behind this molecular switch?
PKA works by adding phosphate groups to other proteins,
Okay.
a process called phosphorylation.
Okay.
You can think of it like attaching a sticky note to a protein, changing its behavior and function.
So phosphorylation is kind of like tweaking a protein's settings.
Precisely. And the consequences of this tweaking can be pretty profound.
Wow.
For example, phosphorylation by PKA can alter an enzyme's activity, making it work faster or slower. Or it can change a protein's shape, allowing it to interact with other molecules in a different way.
It's amazing how such a subtle chemical change can have such a dramatic impact on a protein's behavior.
It is. And one of the really remarkable things PKA can do is influence gene transcription, the process of making RNA from DNA.
Oh, wow.
This means it can actually affect which proteins a cell is making.
Wait, so this tiny cascade of events,
Right.
starting from a single molecule binding to a receptor on the cell surface, can reach all the way into the nucleus and control gene expression.
That's right. And by controlling gene expression, the CAMP pathway can influence a cell's long-term behavior
Wow.
and even its fate.
That's mind-blowing.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's not just about immediate responses, it's about shaping the entire cellular landscape.
Yeah.
This is starting to feel like a much bigger story than just a simple signaling pathway.
It is a big story and one with far-reaching consequences.
Yeah.
The CAMP pathway is involved in countless physiological processes,
Well,
from regulating your heartbeat to forming memories to even controlling your vision.
speaking of consequences, I remember reading that this pathway is a major target for drugs.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. The CAMP pathway is involved in so many physiological processes that it's like a prime target for therapeutic intervention.
Yeah.
For example, beta blockers, which are used to treat high blood pressure,
Right.
work by blocking certain receptors in the CAMP pathway,
Okay.
ultimately slowing down the heart rate.
So by understanding the intricacies of this pathway, scientists can develop drugs that specifically target certain components,
Right.
essentially fine-tuning its activity to achieve a desired therapeutic outcome.
Exactly, and that's why studying the KMP pathway is so important.
Yeah.
It's not just about understanding basic cell biology.
Right.
It's about unlocking the secrets to treating a wide range of diseases.
Well, I'm definitely starting to see the bigger picture here. It's incredible how such a seemingly simple chain of events can have such profound effects on our health and well-being.
It is, and we've only just begun to scratch the surface.
I'm ready to delve deeper. What else should our listeners know about this amazing cascade of molecular events?
Well, it's remarkable how adaptable the CAM-A pathway is. It's involved in so many diverse processes, and yet that core mechanism, it stays the same.
Yeah.
This little cascade of molecules can be tweaked and fine-tuned to achieve very specific outcomes.
Yeah, it really is a testament to the elegance and efficiency of evolution, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Could you give us an example of how this pathway is adapted to serve a specific function?
Absolutely. Let's talk about vision.
Okay.
Did you know that the CAM-P pathway is essential for how we see?
I know light triggers some kind of signal in our eyes,
Right.
but I never connected that to CAM-P. How does this pathway play a role in vision?
Well, it all happens in the photoreceptor cells of the retina.
Okay.
These cells contain a special GPCR called rhodopsin.
Okay.
Rhodopsin is sensitive to light, and when light hits it, the pathway gets activated.
Okay, so we've got light activating a GPCR just like a ligand would.
Yeah.
Does this then lead to an increase in CAM-P like we discussed earlier?
That's where things get interesting. In most cells, the CAM-P pathway is turned on when a ligand binds to a GPCR.
Right.
But in photoreceptor cells, it's actually the opposite.
Really?
The pathway is turned on in the dark.
Wait, seriously, so in darkness, there's a high level of CAM-P in these cells?
Exactly, and here's why.
Okay.
In darkness, a specific G protein called transducin is active.
Okay.
Transducin stimulates the production of CAM-P,
Okay.
which keeps certain sodium channels open,
Right.
allowing sodium ions to flow into the photoreceptor cell.
So high levels of CAM-P in the dark keep these sodium channels open. What's the significance of that?
This influx of sodium ions generates an electrical signal that's transmitted to the brain, telling the brain, hey, it's dark.
Okay, so that's how the signal for darkness is generated.
Yeah.
What happens when light enters the picture?
When light hits the retina, it's absorbed by a molecule called retinal, which is bound to rhodopsin.
Right.
This light absorption triggers a change in retinal's shape, activating rhodopsin.
So light activates rhodopsin, the GPCR, but instead of increasing CAM-P, what happens?
The activated rhodopsin triggers a cascade that ultimately leads to the breakdown of CAM-P.
So light actually reduces CAM-P levels in the photoreceptor cell.
Precisely. And with less CAM-P around the sodium channels we talked about,
Yeah.
they begin to close, reducing the flow of sodium ions.
Which weakens the signal to the brain.
Exactly. This decrease in the electrical signal tells the brain, hey, there's light.
So it's the reduction of CAM-P, not an increase, that signals the presence of light. That's counterintuitive, but it makes sense when you explain it like that.
It's a beautifully designed system that highlights the flexibility of the CAM-P pathway.
Yeah.
It can be adapted to respond to different stimuli, in this case, light,
Right.
and trigger very specific outcomes.
It's amazing how a single pathway can be tweaked to serve such different purposes. It speaks to the power of evolution to build upon existing mechanisms and create new functionalities.
It's truly remarkable, and to further illustrate this point, let's move beyond vision
Okay.
and consider another fascinating example, hormone release.
Okay.
Did you know that the CAM-P pathway plays a crucial role in regulating the release of hormones like those produced by the thyroid gland?
The thyroid. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I know the thyroid is important for regulating metabolism.
Right?
But I never considered the role of CAM-P in that process.
Well, the release of thyroid hormones is a tightly controlled process.
Okay.
And the CAM-P pathway is a key player.
Right.
It all starts with a hormone from the pituitary gland.
Okay.
Called thyroid-stimulating hormone, or TSH.
Okay, so TSH is released from the pituitary gland. What does it do?
TSH travels through the bloodstream and binds to a specific GPCR on thyroid cells.
Okay.
This binding activates the CAM-P pathway within those cells,
Right.
leading to a cascade of events. That ultimately stimulates the production and release of thyroid hormones.
So the CAM-P pathway is like the intermediary,
Yeah.
relaying the signal from the pituitary gland to the thyroid gland.
Exactly.
And this ensures the proper release of thyroid hormones.
Exactly. This system is incredibly precise,
Wow.
ensuring that thyroid hormone levels are maintained within a narrow range,
Yeah.
which is crucial for maintaining a healthy metabolism.
It sounds like a delicate balance. What happens if this system goes awry?
Well, Both an underactive thyroid, known as hypothyroidism,
Right.
and an overactive thyroid, hyperthyroidism,
Right.
can arise from disruptions in this pathway.
Wow.
These conditions can lead to a host of health problems,
Yeah.
ranging from fatigue and weight gain to heart palpitations and anxiety.
It's amazing and a bit daunting to think that this tiny cascade of molecules has such a profound impact on our overall health.
It really highlights the importance of understanding these molecular mechanisms.
Yeah.
By studying the CAMP pathway and how it's regulated, we can gain insights into a wide range of physiological processes and diseases.
This deep dive is certainly opening my eyes to the complexity and elegance of cellular signaling. What other surprises does the CAMP pathway have in store for us?
Well, we've talked about vision and hormone release,
Right.
but the CAMP pathway doesn't stop there.
Okay.
It's also involved in a wide range of other processes,
Right.
from regulating blood sugar levels to controlling the growth and development of cells.
It seems like there's no end to the versatility of this pathway. Is there a common thread that links all these diverse functions?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And while the specific details may vary, the underlying principle remains the same.
Okay.
The CAMP pathway acts as a molecular switch,
Right.
turning on or off specific cellular processes
Right.
in response to external cues,
Yeah.
whether it's light hitting the retina,
Yeah.
a hormone binding to a receptor,
Right.
or a drug interacting with a specific protein.
Yeah.
The CAMP cascade is able to amplify and transmit that signal, ultimately leading to a change in the cell's behavior.
It's like a universal language that cells use to communicate and respond to their environment.
Yeah.
And by understanding this language, we can begin to decipher the complexities of human health and disease.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
The study of cell signaling is like unlocking a secret code,
Hmm.
revealing the intricate mechanisms that govern life itself.
I'm ready to decode some more of this fascinating pathway. What other secrets can you reveal about the CAMP cascade?
Wow.
So we've explored how the CAMP pathway plays a role in vision and hormone release, but I'm curious about its impact on something we touched on earlier, gene transcription. It's fascinating how a signal, starting at the cell's surface, can travel all the way to the nucleus and actually change which genes are being expressed.
It's a remarkable feat of molecular communication and one that really highlights the profound influence of this pathway. Remember how we talked about CAMP activating pKa?
Right?
Well, pKa can actually enter the nucleus, the control center of the cell,
Oh, wow.
where DNA is stored.
So pKa, which started this whole cascade out in the cytoplasm, can actually make its way into the nucleus. What happens then?
Once inside the nucleus, pKa can phosphorylate a protein called CEB, which stands for CAMP response element binding protein. CEB is what's called a transcription factor, meaning it can bind to specific DNA sequences and regulate the expression of nearby genes.
So when pKa phosphorylates CREB, it's like flipping a switch that turns on or off the expression of those genes.
That's an excellent analogy. And the genes regulated by CEB are involved in a wide array of cellular processes, including memory formation, neuronal plasticity, and even cell survival.
That's incredible. So the CAMP pathway isn't just about immediate responses. It can actually shape the cell's long-term behavior and even its fate by controlling which genes are being expressed.
Precisely. By controlling gene expression, the CAMP pathway can kind of reprogram the cell, leading to changes in its function and even its destiny. It's like a master architect, shaping the cell's blueprint and determining its future trajectory.
It makes you realize that these signaling pathways are not just abstract concepts. They have real and tangible effects on how our cells function and ultimately how our bodies operate. It's a humbling thought.
It truly is. And it underscores the importance of studying these pathways in detail. You know, the more we understand about the intricacies of cell signaling, the better equipped we'll be to develop new and innovative therapies for a wide range of diseases.
Well, we've delved into the intricate workings of the CAMP pathway, exploring its roles in vision, hormone release, and gene transcription. What a journey it's been.
It really has. We've only just scratched the surface, but I think our listeners now have a much deeper appreciation for the elegance and complexity of this remarkable signaling pathway.
Absolutely. And if anyone wants to explore further, there's a wealth of information available, but I think this deep dive is a fantastic starting point.
I agree. The CAMP pathway is a real testament to the incredible power of evolution to create these intricate systems that control life at its most fundamental level. It's a journey of discovery that never ends.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the CAMP pathway. It's been an enlightening exploration into the world of cell signaling, and we hope you join us again for another fascinating topic. Until next time, Keep those neurons firing.